Normally, I would give the floor to my guests to introduce themselves. So then we are already rolling. We're very comfortable right now. I'll just love you to let us in on who you are. Just give a brief introduction of who you are, what you're doing, and what you're all about, and also where you're from.
Okay, my name is Mark Madzinga, primarily a musician from Zimbabwe, Harare, Zimbabwe. Um, but I'm a music director, music producer. I write my own music also, so I'm an artist, I'm a songwriter. Um, and I'm also part of management in an events company. And on the ministry side, I am the head of music and media at our church, New Life Covenant Church.
Oh wow, that's amazing. Um, Looking at our topic today, aligning passion with your purpose, you're one person that I look up to and say, okay, I feel this man has it all figured out. He's really passionate about music, and then he carries this whole crowd with him, and he does it very well, and it seems effortless. Um, how did you know that music was your passion, and then how did you align it with your main purpose in life?
How did I know music is my passion?
Yes.
If you followed my story, I guess you know that I used to work in a bank.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
Yes.
Whilst I was at the bank, Standard Chartered Bank, I used to sneak out of work to go do music. Uh,
No.
I remember at the very height of it, I remember
Mhm.
sending a friend of mine to work with a sick note on my behalf to
No.
tell them that Mark is sick, but I think I was going to a gig or something. And on one of these instances, my
Uh-huh.
boss that I had actually told that I'm sick then came to this conference that I was actually playing at, and he was right in the VIP section, and I was on stage, hadn't showed up to work, and I was apparently sick but busy on stage.
Oh
So
my goodness.
for me, the passion for music was
Mm-hmm.
there. I actually started late by the standards because the music geniuses. You hear that they started playing when they're 4 years old, and some of them even
Oh
have videos of their parents with them playing like at a very young age. I only started playing when I was 16, I think,
yeah.
and I was
Mm-hmm.
actually playing guitar then. So, having started late. Uh, this thing really just consumed me. It really caught my attention so much. I would be bunking maths lessons to go play the piano in the music room, and it gave me so much peace. And I felt so at ease. Like I flow when I'm on the keyboard. I don't have to
Uh-huh.
think. There was someone that she was asking, how do you play when you're not even looking at the keyboard? How are you playing all that you're playing without looking? So
Yeah.
how I knew it was my pattern, this thing came so naturally to me. And I also listened to others, what they would say. Obviously, in the moment of it, when you're at work and someone is asking you, but you, Mark, why are you even bothering? This thing is so difficult. Life is hard, and we are getting a hard time from our bosses. But you've got a fallback plan because a lot of it also is not really worth it because people go to work, the money doesn't even make sense, but you're
Yeah.
just going because you're now used to the motions. You are now in this routine. You know your routine. You just wake up, you bath, you eat, you show up at the office, work out the figures or whatever it is, the money
Mm-hmm.
like in the bank,
Yeah.
and when it's time to go home, you pack up and you go, and that becomes your routine for the rest of your life. But you're not living.
Yeah. You
So
just
for me, I felt like I'm living whilst I was sitting on the piano or the keyboard. And that for me became a better compromise where maybe I don't even have the money. I remember the first few years I couldn't earn. I didn't get much money from it, But the
Yeah.
peace that I got from it was enough for me to know that this is where I'm supposed to be.
Oh yeah. That's really beautiful. I mean, there's nothing I'm passionate about than talking. Really, I would really love to talk for a living. So this is how come my podcast came to be. And just to meet someone that's passionate about something else, a creative, is just confirmation that I'm on the right track. Um, Getting to our next question, how did music change your life entirely? Like the shift from you being a banker and then taking on music. How did that change your life entirely?
Okay, so I'm also getting that I didn't quite answer the other question where you're asking how I then aligned my passion with what I believe my life purpose is, and
Yeah.
maybe I can tie that into how music has changed my life.
Yes.
So I I obviously had to realize that my passion is the place of my blessing. So
Uh-huh.
God's provision for my life is around my area of passion. He could
Right.
bless me in me doing banking because he's blessed the works of my hands anyway. So I
Yeah.
wasn't a great employee, but I wasn't also uh, like the
Uh,
worst.
yeah.
And there's obviously a bit of favor that he allows me to move around with. Goodness and mercy are following me all the days of my life. So
Oh
it's
yeah.
not like I will be a terrible flop in banking. But
Mm-hmm.
I also realize that the greatest blessing, that where it says that every good and every perfect gift comes from above, where he's
Mm-hmm.
got a good and a very perfect gift for me was in my passion, which is music. So I then realized that for my life to be fulfilling God's purposes for what He has purposed me to be, and
Mm-hmm.
for my life to be in God's Goshen, like you know how the children of Israel, Jacob's clan through Joseph, they they lived in Goshen, where there was a famine, but Goshen everything was provided for. So my
Oh
Goshen
yeah.
is in the place where uh, my passion is fully able to flourish, where my area of effectiveness is in my
Oh
passion.
yeah.
And so my life had to, I had to align my life to my purpose through my
Mm-hmm.
passion. So purpose and passion have to move together in one lane, and we can actually create the environment ourselves. You create the environment. I had to create the environment where, whether I'm in church, whether I'm at home, whether I'm working, all
Mm-hmm.
of it has to have music involved somehow. And through that, whether I am now sleeping or I'm just having a conversation with friends, music involved somehow. So on that basis alone, I don't have to think. I'm not waiting for a platform from an employer. I'm not
Yeah.
waiting for for a job description or a contract for me to be living in my purpose. My purpose is chasing me wherever I am, whether I'm waking up, I'm driving my car, wherever I'm showing up, the barber that actually does my haircut, it's all
Uh-huh.
aligned with my purpose or what God has created me to be. So my blessing is everywhere around me. My blessing is in the church. My blessing is in my office. My blessing is in my house because there's actually a keyboard right next to my bed. There's a studio right
Mm.
above my bedroom, and there's a studio in my office. So
Oh
wherever I
wow.
wake up, when I open my eyes, my purpose is
Mm-hmm.
chasing me. My passion is right before me. I actually work from my bed. I wake up at 4 a.m. and I've got
Mm-hmm.
a sound card right next to my where I'm sleeping. So the glory of the Lord, the favor of God, goodness and mercy, they are everywhere around me. And wherever I am showing up, I'm showing up in God's favor. So that's where my life is surrounded by purpose, by passion. I actually can't separate the two now.
Oh yeah. I totally relate. I can understand that. But then one thing that I don't understand is How on earth are you multi-talented? You're a musician, an influencer, a music director, a producer, a songwriter, and also the founder of Destiny Music Entertainment. Like, how did all that come together? You know what I mean? Like, yes, we understand you're an artist, but how did you manage to flow through all these streams of talentedness?
So I'm actually, when someone else is describing and telling you all these things that you are, it's almost like, okay, I don't realize it when I'm doing it.
Oh
Like
yeah.
in the process of me living my life, I'm not realizing that I'm a music director, I'm a producer, I'm influencing. This influencer thing is actually new to me. Um, but what I will say is, based on the other answer I gave earlier,
Mm-hmm.
these roles are sort of, it's almost like think of it as you're on a journey.
Oh
Um,
yeah.
you take a bus and
Mm-hmm.
um, you pass through certain cities as you're on your journey to wherever you're going. And I believe some of these things, these roles that I have, they are just part of my journey. I pass through all of the different spaces on my journey to where God has purposed me to go. It's not like I stop and I'm like, okay, so right now I'm gonna take on the role of music director. And then when I'm
Oh yeah.
done there, I stop and then I'm like, okay, so right now I'm gonna take on the role of head of music. It's all
Yeah.
of it is just intertwined. I easily fit into it. And obviously, by God blessing the works of my hands and blessing me wherever I go and putting undeserved favor on me in what I'm doing, in my process of just living my life, then there's extra grace placed on my productions and they are on the charts or whatever. There's extra grace that God has placed on my serving Him in His house, and I'm now being made the head of the music department. For me,
Yeah.
it's still just me living my life, but there's extra that God has placed on it that is catching people's attention. But on the inside, it's me just waking up to do what I believe God has created me to do. And the greatest thing about it, like I said, is my life is surrounded by what I flourish in and what I'm good at. So it's catching the church's attention, it's catching the gospel industry's attention, it's catching the events industry's attention, but it's me just living my life based on what God has called me to be. So I'm not necessarily, um, I'm so many things, but at the same time, those so many things are just coming out of me living my life the way God has asked, has placed an assignment on on me, I guess. I hope I answered the question.
Oh yes. So I just love how you're going about all your answers. Everything seems to be aligning like the topic suggests. So what do you think is the importance of investing in one skill or talent? Like I'll bring it back here in Zambia. Many other times where you figure out you're good at something, but then people need you to get a white collar job, and then are not able to support your other skills away from your academics. You know what I mean? Like if you're gifted in encouraging or administration, people might not be able to support you um, financially, but then you're really passionate about it and you know it's part of your purpose. People are not willing to really support you financially. What is the importance of one taking the responsibility and investing in one skill?
So, um, by nature of the world we're living in,
Mm-hmm.
no one is gonna come and rescue you from lack. No one is gonna come and rescue you from not having the resources.
Mm-hmm.
It's I doubt that there's anyone sitting in their house thinking there's a child somewhere in the ghetto there that has a gift that the world has never seen. and I need to go and rescue them from that place and put them on the world platform. The only way someone would do that or think that is if they've actually interacted with your giftedness somehow.
Yeah.
So
Mm-hmm.
for someone to say there's a child in the ghetto that's so gifted and I need to rescue them out of there, they should have seen you perform somewhere. They should have
Mm-hmm.
seen you in your element, in your giftedness, doing something that actually deserves the world stage. So
Yes.
for whoever it is that's feeling like they don't have the resources, they don't have the platform or whatever, you need to be the best you can with the resources that you do have. You need to be performing at your optimum level, at whatever level you're at. And for me, what that meant was I know the fact that number one, I started late. I know the fact that number two, I'm not the most gifted. Like in
Mm-hmm.
Zimbabwe, I'm certainly not the most gifted pianist. There are other people who are more gifted than I am. But what I do know about those people is that they've probably not seized every opportunity as much as I have. And by every opportunity, I'm not just talking of the opportunity to play, because playing is one thing, but also building networks within the industry is another thing. You have to be
Mm-hmm.
able to navigate there's actually skills you can learn about how to communicate your gift. Your gift is not just about um, what it is, whether it's playing the piano or it's singing. It's not just about you singing, but are you able to communicate and package your singing in a way that someone else can actually buy your story? So there, for myself, I've just done a an album launch that I didn't have a single cent. Well, maybe I had a few $100, maybe 1,000 here and there. But the
Mm-hmm.
budget itself, we were looking at it today, it got into tens of thousands of dollars. And it
Wow.
had to be someone else, not just someone, other people, different numbers of people, more than 10 people who had to, buy into whatever I'm doing. And for someone to buy into what I'm doing, it means that I have packaged it in a way that it actually makes sense.
Oh
So
yes.
the way you carry yourself, the way you approach your gift, your skill, or whatever, it needs to be worked on. And part of it also means investing in the actual skill itself. Because, like I told you, that I started late, but that doesn't mean that I didn't then initially, obviously, I had to learn by myself most of it. I had to go to YouTube, watch tutorials. There had to be a time where I actually went through a formal course, a formal form of training. You have to
Mm-hmm.
invest in your gift as much as you can, because sometimes, people complain that I don't have the money to go get a degree, but there are courses which cost like $20. Udemy has
Yeah.
courses that could be like $10. You
Mm-hmm.
know, the thing about learning something new is that no matter how small it is, it's adding value to you. And that
Oh
value is
yes.
actually important. So you can't wait for the value that's $50,000 worth of value when you can learn something from a $10 worth of value, and you can actually grow through it. So for me, it's not necessarily an issue of I don't have people who can fund my thing. My parents don't have money. I never grew up where money was. We complain and cry so much over so many different things, but the resources are actually around us. And you can actually just look at even a manual. The manual for a keyboard will tell you how the keys work, and all you need to do is to just sit and learn. We need to be learners. We need to
Yeah.
consistently and persistently be students of life, be students of our skills and our areas of giftedness, our areas of interest, our areas of passion. If you think you have arrived before you've even learned the basics of what you believe you're called to do, then you are doomed to fail.
Oh yes. Agreed. I totally agree. Um, I mean, like I mentioned, I just love how you're approaching every answer because it just makes so much sense. It's very relatable, and that's what my podcast is all about. I have relatable conversations with my guests, and my listeners are able to engage with me and just give me feedback on how they feel on every discussion that I have every week. So that said, there's this emotional part to your
mm,
story that
mm,
captures who you are entirely. You're not afraid to talk about it. You're very vocal
mm,
about it on your socials. So you have a gorgeous little girl,
mm,
and then you had this beautiful wife. How did you
mm.
use that pain to grow who you are today?
Okay. That one is a long story. So, um, you know, one of the things that you mentioned at the beginning is that um, I have my stuff together and I'm moving in um, a good direction or something along those lines.
Yes.
What I will admit right now is that I don't always have it together, um,
Okay.
including today. I was having a conversation, and in that conversation, I was so emotional to the point of almost breaking down. I probably broke down, but it's just me being human. I'm human. I think
Yeah.
the the greatest answer I can give to your question is that I'm just human, and
Hmm.
allow the human side to play itself out fully. I don't shut it out. I don't shut it off. I experience it in its fullness, and experiencing it in its fullness allows me to gain the power that comes out of it.
Hmm.
I, at some point, had to learn the art of being able to observe yourself, and it's it's a high level of self-awareness where you are actually able to almost get out of your own body and just watch yourself cry, watch yourself break down, watch yourself have an emotional uh, breakdown, watch yourself have a panic attack. And
Oh yeah.
what it does is your body is able to experience it fully. Because one of the things about pain is that it demands to be felt. I got that from a movie actually, where they were talking about how pain demands to be felt, and each time you try to um, deny it what it wants, you are actually perpetuating it in yourself. You are creating more pain in you by trying to avoid it. So
Hmm.
it's better to just allow it to, to travel through your body. When it's done, it's done. You move on. And what that has afforded me is the power that comes from me not being controlled by my emotions. So
Hmm.
when I'm emotional, I get very emotional. I get worked up, and if I cry, I cry. If I vent, I vent. But I don't bottle it in. I don't keep it inside. There was obviously a season where I shut myself out from the world. I suffered this pain, this loss. There was actually a time where I almost backslid. There was a time where I almost wanted to take myself out. There was a time when I didn't want to face anybody because I felt so shameful, so vulnerable. I didn't know. And there was a time when I thought the world didn't want to even interact with me. And through those days, I didn't stay in my feelings. I didn't park there. I tried my best to read a lot of books. There was a season where I was reading lots of books, and
Okay.
that content helped me much. And then obviously there was a time when I read the Bible much. The Bible is the solution. The Bible is the answer. The Bible is our manual for life. But we want to work things out ourselves. We want to have a plan. We want to be wise. We want to be witty. We want to be Superman and superstars. That whole Avengers
Oh yes.
narrative has created it. We watch too many movies. We think that life is lived through superheroes. You're not
Oh
the
yeah.
superhero of your life. There's one superhero, his name is Jesus Christ. He died for you. He was the
Uh-huh.
word in flesh, and we just need to read his life. And once we go to him, there's a verse that I've been speaking about a lot of late. It's Romans 15, verse 4, which says that everything that was written for our learning, so that we, through the patience and the comfort of the scriptures, may find hope. That's a very powerful verse. That
Mm-hmm.
for me, my hope came from the word of God. Whenever I'm hopeless, if I go to the word of God, through its patience and comfort, I'm able to find hope for whatever situation I find myself in. So that is what helped me to, find strength where it says that his grace is sufficient for me, for his strength is made perfect in my weakness. So when I'm weak, then I am strong because his strength is now working in me, where I've
Oh,
surrendered and totally yielded to what he's able to do through me, and he can use
mm-hmm.
me as a vessel to give strength to others. Because my comforting is not for myself, but it's for the person who's listening to this podcast, so that they may find hope and know that if they lose a spouse, they can actually come out stronger on the other side, because
Oh,
Mark
yeah.
went through it and it wasn't my strength, but it was his strength that was perfecting in me that level of, you know, where it says, let patience have its perfect work in you, so that you may be perfect and entire, lacking nothing. It's not that I lack, for example, I lack money, or um I lack my child. There are times when she lacks the things that she feels that she wants in the moment. But
Mm-hmm.
that lack, that lack doesn't define me, because there's I'm perfect in Christ. His perfection is working in me, and that perfection is actually leading me to the place where it says that may he who has begun a good work in you complete it until the day of Jesus Christ. So I'm a completed work, but I'm also a work in progress. It's like
Yeah.
there's a preacher who said a delayed match that's already finished. So Christ finished it on the cross, but I'm walking towards my, in meeting with my Maker and towards eternity. And in that process, I'm actually perfect, though I'm still being perfected. That's the
Yeah.
mystery of godliness. Anyway, I could preach that one forever.
Well, I just love it. That's what it's all about. We're here to be very authentic, and authenticity is exactly what you're giving right now. So, just a light on a lighter note, do
Mm.
you feel Glory is musically gifted just as you are as well?
I don't feel I know she's definitely musically gifted. It's just that I haven't been in the space yet where I can mold her
Mm-hmm.
correctly. I'm also trying to have God help me and assist me in how best to assist her into her giftedness. She can dance, she can sing, she is interested in playing the piano. So she's definitely a musical girl. One of the things that I forced my wife, Nomfundo, to do
Yeah.
when she was pregnant was to put headphones. I actually intentionally bought headphones that can be flat on her stomach, and I asked her to play classical music for Glory. And I know that she's got it in her to do music. It's just that I haven't found the right path that I need to guide her in. But
Mm-hmm.
yeah, she's definitely musically gifted.
Amazing. That's great to learn. Oh, for those of you that are listening, Glory is actually his little girl. She's really cute and very very like her dad. So,
She is.
what are your future plans? You had a very successful music album launch not long
Hmm.
ago. How
Yes.
did that all come together? And Free, where did the title come from? Like what really inspired you to come up with that album with the name, and how did everything come together?
So the album is called Free, and it was really a tribute album to my late wife. And when she passed away, I
Mm-hmm.
knew that being a musician, I need to do something um in her honor and in her loving memory. So that's what brought about the album. I came across a poem that she wrote where she was talking about a place where she's free from sorrows, where there's no pain. And that's where I got most of the words for the song, which is the title track of the album. It's called Free. And then I got the verse John 8:36, which says that whom the Son sets free is free indeed, or in a different version, if the Son makes you free, then you will be free indeed.
He did. Yes.
And yeah, so that's where the entire message of the album is coming from. That if Jesus sets you free, then you're free indeed. And the freedom is not uh obviously there's challenges. The challenges are not disappearing. It's not like you are void of the challenges, or you are immune to facing difficulties. But
Mm-hmm.
freedom that Christ gives is saying that in spite of the challenges, in spite of the storms that may come, you are still free. You can still have peace which surpasses all understanding. And that peace comes from where Philippians 4 says that do not worry about anything, but in everything, by prayer and supplication, let your requests be made known to God. And the peace of God, which surpasses all understanding, will guard your hearts and your minds in Christ Jesus. So, Jesus is setting you free by you actually letting go. You are casting your cares upon him because he cares for you. You are
Mm-hmm.
letting go, and that allows you to be free in him. You can have freedom and peace of mind. So that's where it came from. And obviously the journey was a journey of pain, a journey of loss, a journey of, you know, self-discovery through thoughts of suicide and whatnot,
Oh
and then
yes.
overcoming all that to come to a point where I can actually create some music that people can listen to and enjoy, or even sit together like at the launch and listen to, and actually have some testimonies to share after. So the invitation was obviously to people who've lost loved ones, for people who've lost jobs, people who've been
Oh yeah.
depressed, people who felt
Mm-hmm.
like committing suicide. And that's why it actually became free of charge. And we had a great time. People came out, the venue was packed, some were even standing. And there were
Oh.
so many different artists that brought their teams and brought their A game. They came through and they delivered such a sweet performance, such an excellent performance. It wasn't just my own efforts. My own efforts were probably like at 10%, and everyone else came
Uh-huh.
together to congregate around this message of freedom. And it came out so well. And there's obviously requests for it to happen again. But right now, I am not able to say we're going to do it again or we won't. But what I'm able to say is I'm still going to stay true to what God has asked me to do. And if God asks that I do another one, He will obviously make sure that it happens. And I know God provides for His vision, and He makes it. He brings it to pass. His word doesn't return to Him void, but it accomplishes every single
Mm-hmm.
thing that He set it out to accomplish. So if God has said that we're gonna have another one, we'll have another one. But right now, for me, the focus is still on the message of freedom and trying my best to get it out there. So thank you actually for inviting me on your forum, because I
Mm-hmm.
know that there's still someone who's gonna be hearing this, and they can still receive the freedom that Christ gives, in spite of whatever they also feel that they may have done to not deserve the love of Christ. But His love accepts us. His arms are open, wide open to receive us the
Mm-hmm.
moment we realize that He is our source, He is the one who gives us the freedom, and His strength is made perfect in our weakness. So it's not that there's something wrong with me when I'm weak. No, there's nothing wrong. It's just part of human nature. But there's something wrong when you then don't go back to the one who promises to give us the strength.
Oh yeah. Yes, that's very, very true.
Yeah.
Oh, that was beautifully answered. Sadly, this is not my favorite part of recording because we're slowly drawing to the end of today's episode. But before we do that, I really want you to teach me at least how to say good night in any Zimbabwean local language. Like I'll teach you something in Nyanja or Bemba, then you teach me something as well in any Zimbabwean local language.
Ish. Okay, so that's an interesting one. Good night.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, I think the best way to say it in Shona would be Murare Mushe.
Oh, okay. It's actually super close, super close to ours as well. It's like
Okay.
Mulale Bueno. That's Bemba. Mulale
Okay.
Bueno. Mm-hmm.
Mulale Bueno. Okay.
Yes.
Ah, that's
Great.
nice. So in a different language from Zimbabwe, it's Lala Kahle, which sort of sounds the same as Mulale Bueno. So it's funny how our languages sound similar.
Oh yeah, it's actually great. So the last question before I let you go.
Hmm.
Um, do you look forward to working with any Zambian gospel artist? We have gospel artists that are really good. Do you look forward to collaborating with one Zambian artist or maybe two in the near future, if not next year, maybe the year after, or just some time
Okay,
around?
so I I obviously have been mostly on the side of, playing for people. It's only this
Mm-hmm.
year that I've really come out as an artist in my own right. But
Okay.
I've got a friend out there, well, one of our friends, he actually used to play for our own church band. His name is Nick. He's now working in Zambia. I also have another instrumentalist friend. His name is Mapalo. He's a keyboard player, an amazing keyboard player. But
Mm-hmm.
I've had inquiries in my DMs from, some of the Zambian artists. I can't think of their names right now, but I'm
Uh-huh.
so open to collaborating with people from that side. And I obviously, having done my launch and the music that I've done, I obviously want to get it out there as much as possible. I would love to come
Mm-hmm.
to Zambia and, spread the message of freedom and the message of hope and spread the gospel of Christ. And if there are artists out there that also I can work with, I'm very much open to that. God willing, it would be nice to, work with people across the borders as well.
Amazing. That's great. I mean, that's what I love to hear. I would definitely show up and come. I was literally following your stories the day of your launch. I was like, I can't be there physically, but at least I must see something. I must watch
Thank
something.
you.
So I was literally there following the whole time. I think I sent you a DM as well on that particular day, though it was really busy. I saw all these
Mm,
posts, yeah, and people tagging you all over. I'm like, okay, this is some good stuff. It just looked amazing. The venue, the audience, it was so beautifully organized.
thank you. Thank you so much.
Well, that said, we have come to the end of our episodes today. I was joined by Zimbabwean sensation Mark.
Mm,
Thank you so much for joining me today. I am beyond grateful. I am humbled. This means so much to me. I know you're a very busy man. You making time to actually sit down with me and send this message of freedom means more than, I don't know, more than I could ever imagine. I'm very humbled. I really appreciate. Thank you for extending your support and your love. I'm growing to understand who I am as a person. I'm evolving, and I hope to get to the level that you're at spiritually and also in that area of your career.
thank you. Thank you so much for having me. And I also pray that in all that you're doing and in your podcast and in your I know you said your passion is to talk, that God would bless you and bless all your works and open doors for you that no man can shut. And may your gift make room for you and bring you before great people. And I so look forward to even hearing much more from you and all that you are doing. And I pray that God may continue to even inspire others in your own country and across borders with the work that you're doing.
Thank you so much. Well, my listeners, you have been with me, your host, Vanessa Makete. It's lovely to be with you yet another week. We have discussed the topic aligning passion with purpose. And my guest did justice. He brought everything that he had. I knew he was going to deliver. I knew he was going to bring everything and not hold on to anything. Please do not forget to favorite this particular episode on Anchor FM. We are available as well on Google Podcasts, on YouTube, and on Facebook at A Piece of V Podcast. The first letters are blocked letters. Please do not forget that. Let us continue to interact. Send me those DMs. Feel free to WhatsApp me and also share this episode with a loved one. From me and Mr. Mark, it's good night and God bless.